I sat in the small, windowless conference room under the harsh fluorescent lights and watched him deliver the sentence as though ordering coffee. "We are letting you go, Grant. We found someone who will manage the entire regional inventory framework for 40% of your salary. It is pure economics, you understand." Jason Mercer had a subtle, irritating way of speaking where he would deliver a cruel statement and then flash a polished corporate smile, as if the gesture made everything acceptable. He displayed that exact same condescending grin right now. It was the same smile he used whenever he asked me to stay past midnight to fix shipping discrepancies, or when he needed me to re-explain why seasonal items were zoned in specific climate-controlled areas of the warehouse. 11 years. I had dedicated 11 whole years of my life to this enterprise. When I first stepped into the facility 11 years ago as a newly hired inventory specialist, the three primary fulfillment centers were in utter chaos. Pallets of valuable merchandise were dumped haphazardly wherever floor space was available. Summer items were buried underneath heavy winter stock in July. Major regional suppliers were threatening to terminate their contracts because shipment orders were consistently scrambled or lost. Nobody in management wanted to tackle the inventory director position because the system was deemed unfixable. I took the job because I had no choice. I was a single father raising two young children, Chloe and Liam, with mortgage payments and medical bills. During those initial 7 months, I worked until midnight almost every single night. I memorized every product category we carried, identified where each vendor shipped from, analyzed how fast specific items moved, and learned which suppliers required constant administrative oversight. I discovered that seasonal products needed to rotate through designated transition zones based on exact calendar timing. I realized bulk orders from commercial buyers required specialized handling protocols, and certain chemical compounds could not be stored anywhere near perishable goods due to environmental regulations. I built customized tracking spreadsheets from scratch on my personal laptop. They were functional. I color-coded every storage bay across all 3 facilities, created a precise rotation matrix, and personally renegotiated terms with skeptical suppliers until they trusted our operations again. It took 2 solid years before the network ran flawlessly. After that turnaround, the operation simply worked. Products entered loading docks and departed on schedule without friction. Reconciliation numbers balanced to the penny every month. Supplier complaints ceased. The previous operations vice president used to tell corporate board members that I possessed a rare talent for making complex logistical puzzles look effortless. Then Jason Mercer arrived 2 years ago. Corporate transferred him from a small secondary branch after he completed a business degree. He strutted into our facility throwing around buzzwords like optimization and strategic restructuring in every morning meeting. Yet, in 2 full years, Jason never once asked me how the rotation system actually functioned. He never spent 10 minutes on the warehouse floor trying to understand operational details. He only demanded summary reports to make himself look brilliant before executive leadership. "Get me the second quarter. Valuation numbers by 3 o'clock," he would demand. "Compile a category summary so I can present it tomorrow." I fulfilled every request without complaint because that was my responsibility. But Jason developed a dangerous misconception that the operation ran by magic. He convinced himself anyone off the street could execute my daily duties. He began telling corporate executives that inventory basically managed itself through a basic automated process. It was not basic. It was 11 years of deep organizational intelligence, legal compliance knowledge, and operational nuance condensed into seamless routines that appeared simple only because I had spent over a decade perfecting them. My name is Grant West. I am 49 years old. I have worked continuously since I was 16. I know what genuine labor looks like. You show up every day, shoulder responsibility, solve critical problems before they escalate, and protect the people relying on you. This job meant everything to my family. Not because I was in love with supply chains, but because I had built an operational framework that provided stability. Because my daughter Chloe and son Liam had food on the table, healthcare coverage, and a secure home. Jason did not see any of that human reality. He saw only a line-item salary figure that he could erase to boost his end-of-year management bonus. "We have already finalized your replacement," Jason said, his grin stretching wider. "He begins first thing Monday morning. You have until 5 o'clock this afternoon to clear out your desk, pack your personal items, and write out transition instructions for your replacement." "Transition instructions?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. "To whom?" "You just said he starts Monday, and today is late Thursday afternoon. Write down whatever he needs to know to take over," Jason replied dismissively. "It should not take you more than an hour. You have always claimed the system is straightforward." "I never said the system was simple," I corrected him quietly. "You were the one who kept repeating that to executive board members." Arguing with Jason was futile. He had made this decision weeks ago in secret, likely to impress executive management with sudden payroll reductions. This meeting was nothing more than a cold administrative formality. "Understood," I said, standing up from the table. Jason's confident grin faltered slightly. He expected me to plead for my livelihood or break down in tears. I refused to grant him that satisfaction. I turned around and walked out toward my designated workspace. My desk was tucked into a quiet corner near the primary logistics office, equipped with a sturdy desk, a computer, and metal shelving lined with dozens. As I walked toward the main exit carrying my box, my thoughts turned to Donald Montgomery, the regional director of supply chain logistics. Donald was a legendary figure within the corporation. He had been with the enterprise for 28 years, overseeing 6 full geographical regions and supervising over 300 employees. Jason Mercer reported to an intermediate regional manager who reported to Donald, which meant Jason had never actually interacted with Donald in person. However, Donald Montgomery and I shared a deep history that stretched back 6 years ago. A 19-year-old seasonal warehouse employee named Owen was caught by internal loss prevention attempting to steal high-value electronic components from the main loading bay. It turned out Owen was Donald Montgomery's nephew, a reckless teenager who had fallen into debt and made a catastrophic error in judgment. Loss prevention executives and corporate legal counsel wanted to immediately prosecute the young man, file felony charges, and make a public example of him to prove that corporate nepotism would not protect thieves. I was serving as senior inventory supervisor at the time. During an emergency compliance meeting, executive leadership asked for my input regarding the inventory record discrepancies. I looked across the table at Owen, who was trembling, terrified, and acutely aware that his entire future was about to be destroyed. "He is 19 years old," I told the executive panel firmly. "He made a foolish, desperate mistake, but he has no prior record. Require full financial restitution, mandate counseling, impose community service hours under strict supervision, but do not destroy a young person's life with a permanent felony conviction over a single lapse in judgment." The conference room had gone dead silent. Everyone present had expected me to align with the legal team to protect my standing. Donald Montgomery, who had sat silently at the head of the table, looked at me intently for a long moment. Then, Donald slowly nodded his agreement. "We will proceed exactly as Grant suggests," Donald declared calmly. Owen paid back every single cent he owed, completed 6 months of court-approved counseling, performed community service, and eventually earned his university degree in mechanical engineering. He was currently thriving as a project engineer at a major industrial firm. Ever since that day, Donald Montgomery maintained a quiet personal ritual with me. Every 3 months, whenever he conducted regional inspections, Donald and I would meet for a quiet breakfast or late afternoon strategy session at a small diner near the main distribution center. We did not just discuss logistics metrics. Donald asked about my life, my children Chloe and Liam, and the operational challenges facing warehouse workers on the ground. Other department managers found our relationship perplexing. They could not comprehend why a top executive overseeing 6 regions would regularly sit down for coffee with an inventory manager. But Donald valued integrity above corporate titles. He never forgot that I had shown mercy to his young nephew when everyone else demanded destruction. We had our regular quarterly review, scheduled for today at 3:30 in the afternoon. Donald always scheduled our meetings for late afternoon because his mornings were consumed by executive board conference calls. I stood by my car in the parking lot at 2:30, looking at the clock on the dashboard. I pondered whether I should call Donald to inform him of my termination or simply drive home and text him later. I decided against creating immediate drama. I loaded my cardboard box into the back seat, got behind the wheel, and began driving home. The 25-minute drive through heavy afternoon traffic felt surreal. I had driven this exact route thousands of times over the past 11 years. I did not break down or shout in anger. I felt only a hollow, numb quiet, as though an essential pillar of my life had been abruptly ripped away, while the rest of the world continued moving forward as if nothing had happened. When I arrived home, I set the box on the kitchen table, poured myself a glass of water, and sat quietly on the living room sofa. At 3:15 in the afternoon, my cell phone began vibrating loudly on the coffee table. The caller ID displayed Donald Montgomery's direct line. I stared at the screen for several seconds, allowing it to ring. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but on the fourth ring, I picked up. "Hello, Donald," I said softly. "Grant, where are you right now?" Donald asked immediately. His voice carried a sharp, authoritative edge that I rarely heard. "We have our quarterly regional inventory audit in 15 minutes. I just arrived at the main facility office, and your division manager, Jason Mercer, is claiming you abruptly resigned and abandoned your post this morning. What on earth is happening?" "I did not resign, Donald," I replied calmly. "Jason called me into the conference room at 10 o'clock this morning and officially terminated my employment. He stated that corporate had located a replacement candidate willing to execute my duties for 40% of my compensation." Complete silence descended over the line. I could hear Donald's deliberate breathing over the receiver, punctuated by the faint background hum of warehouse activity behind him. "He did what?" Donald asked, his tone dropping an octave into dangerous territory. "He fired me," I reiterated cleanly. "He instructed me to surrender my keys, clear out my desk, and draft transition notes for a new hire starting Monday morning. I am holding the regional master schedule in my hand right now." "Grant," Donald said, his voice cold and measured, "you are listed here for the mandatory third-quarter reconciliation audit at 3:30. We have conducted the strategic review together every 3 months for 6 years. You have never missed a single review." "I know, Donald," I said. I was fully prepared to attend, but Jason stripped me of my access badges and escorted me out of the building. At 5:15 that evening, my phone buzzed again. The screen displayed Jason Mercer's direct mobile number. I stared at the flashing caller ID, debating whether to answer. Curiosity ultimately won, and I swiped the screen. "Grant," Jason's voice came through the speaker. It sounded different from his smug tone earlier that morning. It was tight, strained, and visibly breathless, as if he were forcing words out against his will. "Grant, there appears to have been an unfortunate administrative miscommunication earlier today. We require you to return to the facility immediately." I remained silent, offering no response whatsoever. "Grant? Are you there?" Jason pressed, his composure cracking further. "HR flagged a technical procedural issue with the paperwork. Your termination was not properly authorized through corporate channels. We need you back at your desk first thing tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. "What happened to your highly qualified replacement candidate who was starting Monday for 40% of my pay?" I asked quietly. "That arrangement encountered an unexpected scheduling conflict," Jason stammered hastily. "Look, Grant, this entire situation was simply an unfortunate misunderstanding. The organization recognizes your ongoing contributions. You are considered essential to our daily operations." "Essential?" I repeated the word slowly. "You have never once used that word in the 2 years you have been my manager. You told corporate leadership that my job was basic data entry that managed itself. The regional director is demanding the completed third-quarter inventory reconciliation reports." Immediately, Jason blurted out, abandoning all pretense of corporate posture. "He is refusing to sign off on regional distribution schedules without your comprehensive category analysis. You hold all the underlying tracking data, Grant. Nobody else in the building knows how to extract the raw metrics from the database and compile the final reporting models in time, because You terminated the only professional who built and maintained those models for 11 years, I noted coldly. Grant, please, Jason pleaded, his voice rising in desperation. I need an answer right now. We have active logistics contracts worth millions at stake. The third quarter regional review is critical for operational funding across 6 territories. You cannot simply walk away from your responsibilities. I did not walk away, Jason. You fired me at 10 o'clock this morning and had me escorted off the premises. I made an error in operational judgment, Jason nearly yelled into the receiver. Mistakes happen in fast-paced corporate environments, but we can rectify this immediately. Return tomorrow morning, and we will discuss a salary review and upgraded benefits package. I will consider my options, I said quietly. Grant, I need a commitment right now, he begged. I hung up the phone without another word. I did not return to the facility the following morning, nor did I answer Jason's subsequent 4 phone calls. I let him sit in the wreckage of his own arrogant miscalculation. On Friday evening, Donald Montgomery called my personal number. Grant, I want you to understand precisely what is transacting at corporate headquarters, Donald said, his voice steady and quietly amused. I met with executive leadership this morning. I chose not to fire Jason Mercer on the spot, nor did I transfer him to another branch. What did you do, Donald? I asked, intrigued. I promoted him, Donald revealed with a subtle chuckle. Effective immediately, Jason Mercer has been designated acting vice president of fulfillment for all 3 regional warehouses. He now possesses direct, personal operational oversight over every bay, every loading dock, and every inventory line item. I blinked in confusion. But Donald, he does not know how to run a single warehouse, let alone 3. Precisely, Donald continued smoothly. He now has 0 support supervisors, 0 transition staff, and 0 buffer margin. Every single operational decision flows directly through his desk. Every logistical failure falls squarely on his personal record. And most importantly, he is personally required to produce the comprehensive quarterly reconciliation analytics that you use to prepare. By himself, by next Friday, Donald. That entire analytical matrix took me 11 years to refine and automate, I reminded him. He has no understanding of how the database logic connects to physical bay allocations. He is about to experience a thorough education in logistics reality. Donald replied calmly. Jason told executive board members that your 11 years of work constituted basic, effortless labor that anyone could execute. I simply granted him the exact opportunity he requested to prove his claim. He wanted to cut operational costs. Now he can manage the entire system manually and save the company your salary line item. What about the physical warehouses, Donald? Won't the operations suffer? The fulfillment centers will survive, Grant, Donald said firmly. It will undoubtedly become chaotic for a few weeks. But Jason made an arrogant administrative decision that directly impacted my region. He eliminated an irreplaceable professional without consulting regional leadership and without understanding the immense institutional value he was destroying. Every action carries consequences. After Donald concluded our conversation, I sat in my living room experiencing a profound sense of clarity. I did not feel vengeful or gloating. I felt only a quiet recognition that an invisible balance had been restored. Over the weekend, Jason Mercer attempted to call me 6 more times. I left every call unanswered. On Monday morning, my phone rang again. It was a call from Felix, a veteran shipping supervisor who had worked on the loading docks for 8 years. Grant? Felix asked hesitantly. I know you are no longer with the company, but we are facing a massive disaster on the floor. We have a priority shipment of heavy winter machinery gear scheduled to load out by noon, and nobody can locate where the pallets are staged. Your former manager, Jason, has spent 3 hours tearing through Zone C, screaming at dock workers. But I am fairly certain Zone C contains summer agricultural inventory. The winter machinery gear is staged in Zone A, Bay 14. Behind the yellow safety barricades, I told Felix plainly. Over the next 3 weeks, I watched from a comfortable distance as Jason Mercer's operational empire unraveled. Former colleagues who still worked at the fulfillment centers kept me updated through regular text messages. Freight trucks were routinely dispatched to incorrect regional destinations. Perishable goods sat idling in non-climate-controlled staging bays until they spoiled. Major commercial clients issued formal notices of contract breach due to late deliveries. Jason was reportedly working 14-hour days, sleeping on the couch in his office, frantically trying to manually reconcile thousands of inventory lines that he did not understand. He called my phone at midnight on several occasions, his voice hoarse from stress, begging for tiny snippets of operational advice. I occasionally provided basic public information to prevent frontline dock workers from suffering, but I refused to bail Jason out of his self-inflicted disaster. During the third week of the crisis, I discovered through corporate channels that Jason had attempted a desperate legal cover-up. Realizing that his unauthorized firing of an 11-year veteran without HR approval violated internal corporate governance and statutory worker notification acts, Jason attempted to forge my signature on a backdated voluntary resignation form. He submitted the fraudulent document to corporate HR to claim that I had abruptly quit without notice, attempting to deprive me of my accrued severance benefits and shield himself from executive scrutiny. Furthermore, Jason demanded that corporate IT seize all macro-tracking spreadsheets and proprietary algorithm tools from my workstation, asserting corporate ownership under Title 17 of the United States Code, Section 106. However, corporate legal counsel determined that the underlying macro systems were created on my personal computer prior to my employment contract modification and were never formally assigned to the enterprise, leaving Jason with zero legal claim to my intellectual property. Corporate compliance auditors, alerted by Donald Montgomery, launched a formal forensic investigation into the forged resignation document. They quickly confirmed that the signature was a clumsy forgery executed by Jason himself. Under corporate bylaws and federal regulations, forgings in employee separation agreements constitutes a severe breach of fiduciary duty and corporate fraud. Donald Montgomery called me directly to update me on the legal proceedings. Corporate legal has finalized the investigation. Grant, Donald informed me, his voice sharp with professional indignation. Jason Mercer has been stripped of all operational authority. He was given a choice between immediate termination, with potential legal prosecution for document forgery, or an immediate demotion to a junior inventory clerk position at a single secondary warehouse with 0 direct reports and a 60% reduction in pay. He chose the demotion. He is working as a junior clerk? I asked, astonished. He is entering basic serial numbers into a computer terminal in the basement of our smallest facility. Donald confirmed. And the company is issuing your full 11-year severance package immediately, along with compensation for accrued vacation time. I thanked Donald for his unwavering fairness and integrity. Meanwhile, I had begun actively seeking new professional opportunities across the regional logistics sector. Armed with 11 years of proven operational mastery, I submitted my resume to select distribution enterprises that valued authentic leadership. 4 weeks after my termination from the old company, I received a compelling employment offer from a rapidly expanding regional logistics firm named Apex Distribution Systems. The company was founded and owned by Clara Miller, a highly respected industry veteran who prioritized operational excellence and employee retention during my final interview. Clara sat down with me and reviewed my operational portfolio. She did not ask superficial buzzword questions. Instead, Clara asked detailed, practical questions about how I managed vendor relationships, how I structured inventory rotation matrices, and how I handled supply chain bottlenecks. We need someone with your exact depth of experience to overhaul our primary distribution network, Clara told me warmly. We offer a starting salary 25% higher than what you earned at your previous firm, full executive healthcare benefits for Chloe and Liam, flexible hours, and complete administrative authority over inventory systems. I accepted Clara's offer on the spot. My transition into Apex Distribution Systems was refreshing from day one. Clara Miller personally walked me through the primary distribution center, introduced me to every department supervisor, dock worker, and administrative clerk, and explicitly asked what tools I required to succeed. Time, I told Clara honestly. I need 4 months to analyze your product categories, evaluate your vendor delivery patterns, and construct a customized rotation framework. Operational excellence cannot be rushed overnight. We hired you precisely because you understand that real quality takes deliberate effort, Clara replied with a smile. Take all the time required. The contrast between Clara's respectful, professional leadership and Jason Mercer's arrogant management was night and day. Being treated as a valued professional whose deep knowledge mattered restored my passion for logistics. Within 4 months, I constructed a brand new, streamlined inventory tracking framework for Clara's facility. I established color-coded storage bays, implemented predictable rotation schedules, reestablished trust with regional shipping carriers, and created automated reporting dashboards that provided crystal-clear metrics without unnecessary complexity. During my 7th month at Apex, an unexpected development occurred. Vernon, a major regional supplier contact who had worked with me for 7 years at my old company, called my new office line. Vernon represented a major industrial equipment manufacturer that supplied millions of dollars in seasonal inventory every year. Grant, Vernon said without hesitation, your old company is a total nightmare to deal with now. Ever since you left, our delivery orders are constantly scrambled, invoices are miscalculated, and their new division manager has no idea how to coordinate seasonal inventory staging. We are losing money every single month due to their incompetence. Is your new firm equipped to handle our regional distribution contract? Around my 8th month at Apex Distribution Systems, my personal phone rang during a quiet afternoon. The caller ID displayed Donald Montgomery's familiar number. Hello, Donald. I greeted him warmly. Grant, Donald chuckled softly over the line. I just reviewed our quarterly vendor roster at headquarters, and I see that we have lost 4 of our largest regional supply contracts to Apex Distribution Systems in the past 90 days. Are you actively raiding my vendor network? I laughed aloud. I am not raiding anyone, Donald. Those suppliers reached out to me directly because they were tired of dealing with logistics errors and broken delivery schedules. They made pure business decisions based on operational reliability. I know, Grant, Donald said, his tone softening into deep sincerity. I actually called to congratulate you. You deserve every bit of success you are achieving. To be honest with you, Jason Mercer firing you 11 months ago was the best thing that could have ever happened to your career. Why do you say that, Donald? I asked. Because you were far too loyal to an organization that had begun taking your extraordinary talents for granted. Donald explained cleanly. You would have stayed at that desk for another 11 years, quietly carrying the entire regional infrastructure on your shoulders while superficial managers took credit for your hard work. Sometimes, an unfair corporate push is the exact catalyst required to force a talented professional into the executive success they deserve. Donald's words resonated deeply within me. He was correct. Getting fired had felt like a crushing personal failure on that Thursday afternoon 11 years into my career. Yet, that painful disruption had broken my comfortable routine and forced me to seek an enterprise that valued my expertise. My home life transformed dramatically as well. The severe financial anxiety and chronic stress that I had carried for years vanished. My daughter Chloe, now 17, noticed the profound change one evening while we were preparing dinner together in the kitchen. You seem so much happier now, Dad, Chloe observed with a warm smile. You do not look exhausted when you come home from work anymore. I am happier, Chloe, I told her honestly, handing her a salad bowl. I am working with people who respect what I do. 10 months after I joined Apex Distribution Systems, Clara Miller called me into her executive office for a formal strategic meeting. Grant, Clara began, displaying architectural blueprints on her conference table. We are officially breaking ground on a second primary fulfillment center across the city to handle our massive volume growth. I want you to step into the role of Senior Director of Supply Chain Logistics, overseeing inventory operations for both facilities. You will have full authority to design the logistics framework from the ground up, set department budgets, and hire your own operational team. It was a major executive promotion, accompanied by a substantial salary increase and performance equity options. I am fully on board, Clara, I answered without a second of hesitation. To assist with the expanded workload, I hired a brilliant 23-year-old logistics assistant named Manuel. Manuel was eager, exceptionally bright, and constantly asked detailed questions about why specific inventory algorithms were structured in certain ways. Mentoring Manuel became one of the most rewarding aspects of my new position. I did not hide operational secrets or treat him as disposable staff. Instead, I spent hours teaching Manuel the intricacies of supply chain compliance, vendor negotiations, bay optimization, and seasonal rotation metrics. I showed him that true professional leadership consists of building up your team, sharing institutional knowledge transparently, and creating sustainable systems that thrive long into the future. Within 6 months of structured training, Manuel was efficiently managing daily facility operations across both locations, allowing me to focus on high-level strategic expansion and corporate partnership development. Approximately 1 year after my abrupt termination from my former employer, I was conducting a routine walkthrough of our new facility when my mobile phone rang. The screen displayed an unrecognized local number. "Hello, Grant?" A hesitant male voice asked when I answered. "This is Seth. I do not know if you remember me, but I worked as a receiving clerk in Zone B at your former company." "Of course I remember you, Seth," I replied warmly. "How are you doing?" "I am doing well, Grant," Seth said softly. "I am actually calling because today is my final day with the company. I accepted a senior dock supervisor position at a manufacturing firm across town, and I felt compelled to call and thank you before I departed." "Thank me?" I asked. Surprised. "You probably do not remember," Seth explained, "but 4 years ago, I made a massive operational error during my second week on the job. I mislabeled a shipment of industrial fasteners, which resulted in a $15,000 logistic discrepancy. I was terrified I would be fired on the spot. But you came down to the loading bay, found me sitting in my car in tears, and told me that everyone makes mistakes. You stayed 4 hours past your shift helping me relabel the entire shipment, and you took full responsibility in the incident report so I would not get disciplined." I remembered the incident clearly now. Seth had been a hard-working, honest young man who simply made a mistake under intense pressure. "You did not need to call me about that, Seth," I told him gently. "You were a dedicated worker who deserved support." "I needed to call Grant," Seth insisted, his voice heavy with emotion. "Because when Jason Mercer fired you last year over payroll cuts, everyone on the warehouse floor felt sickened. You had spent 11 years protecting us, fixing our mistakes, teaching us how to do things right, and standing up for frontline workers. And the company discarded you like you were worthless.